Hello again. I am Mark, the creator of this channel, Dramas, Dreams, and Jewelry, and the author of all works that appear on it. Since September of 2019, I've been presenting to the public, free of charge, a number of poems, plays, and short stories to which I retain the copyright. Today, I offer 5 poems and a short story. I shall read each of the poems twice. The first is entitled Podium Palpitations. If you wait just a second, I'll have it for you. Here it is. Lashing with its tail, the ticking clock introduces Mr. Imminence. Coils close round the throat, while mice begin to nibble at the heart. Soon the faucet leak is in crescendo, generating shivers before the cascade. The pencil-stubbed tongue begs to be sharpened. A bandit has kidnapped from brain vital words of script. It's time for you to speak. Remember to smile. Second reading of Podium Palpitations. Lashing with its tail, the ticking clock introduces Mr. Imminence. Coils close round the throat, while mice begin to nibble at the heart. Soon the faucet leak is in crescendo, generating shivers before the cascade. The pencil-stubbed tongue begs to be sharpened. A bandit has kidnapped from brain vital words of script. It's time for you to speak. Remember to smile. The second poem is Postcard to a Friend. Dear friend, frankly, I'm confused. I don't remember boarding this train, and I'm unsure where it's going. Passengers all agree that Genesis was the point of departure, but they disagree on the destination. Some say it's paradise, others say Netherlands. All I know for sure is that I've been on this train for a long time. To solve the mystery, I'm walking from one end of the train to the other. I should finish soon. So far, I've had a lovely journey. The scenery is often beautiful, and most of the passengers are amiable. Once in a while, we pass through a dark tunnel. That's rather scary. Fearsome, too, are a few passengers who speak in foreign tongues and give me surly looks. One compartment follows another. I don't recall the infancy compartment, but I certainly remember the school, college, military, marriage, and parenthood compartments. Right now, I'm in the grandparent car, also known as the old age car, or, to considerate people, the maturity car. The train never stops, so I can never get off and explore the land outside. It's probably just as well. At least I'm a Negoromaniac who enjoys prison cells. The whistles are a little frightful too. Do they order the world to get out of the way, or do they warn us of danger ahead? I understand why the engine has an alternate name. At times it operates on locomotives and produces locomotion. I've never seen the engineer. The passengers assure me that he's good, so good that he can bend the track to his will. Funny about words. Train means not only an engine pulling cars on a rail, but to prepare for a skill. With all the exercise I'm getting on these cars, could I really be training for something without knowing it? And if so, for what am I preparing? By now, I must be close to the caboose, and I'm feeling very weary. There must be a Pullman in that car, for signs say it's a place to sleep. That sounds good. I think I'll take a shot of booze before I take the long snooze. Okay, second reading of Postcard to a Friend. Dear friend, frankly, I'm confused. I don't remember boarding this train, and I'm unsure where it's going. Passengers all agree that Genesis was the point of departure, but they disagree on the destination. Some say it's paradise, others say Netherlands. All I know for sure is that I've been on this train for a long time. To solve the mystery, I'm walking from one end of the train to the other. I should finish soon. So far, I've had a lovely journey. The scenery is often beautiful, and most of the passengers are amiable. Once in a while, we pass through a dark tunnel. That's rather scary. Fearsome, too, are a few passengers who speak in foreign tongues and give me surly looks. One compartment follows another. I don't recall the infancy compartment, but I certainly remember the school, college, military, marriage, and parenthood compartments. Right now, I'm in the grandparents' car, also known as the old age car, or, to considerate people, the maturity car. This train never stops, so I can never get off and explore the land outside. It's probably just as well. At heart, I'm an agoromaniac who enjoys prison cells. The whistles are a little frightful too. Do they order the world to get out of the way, or do they warn us of danger ahead? I understand why the engine has an alternate name. At times it operates on locomotives and produces locomotion. I've never seen the engineer. The passengers assure me he's very good, so good that he can bend the track to his will. Funny about words. Train means not only an engine pulling cars on a rail, but to prepare for a skill. With all the exercise I'm getting on these cars, could I really be training for something without knowing it? And if so, for what am I preparing? By now, I must be close to the caboose, and I'm feeling very weary. There must be a Pullman in that car, for signs say that it's a place to sleep. That sounds good. I think I'll take a shot of booze before I take the long snooze. I personally would not end my life with a shot of booze. In truth, I'm a teetotaler. But the words fit well in a poem. The third poem does reflect my views. Perhaps you share with me deep concern about the increasing loss of privacy in our world. In the novel 1984, George Orwell expressed his anguish over the power of government to control our lives. Frankly, I fear big business as much as big government. Here is a silent army. A silent army has invaded us. Its troops are widely spread. Gossamer boots tiptoe through streets, stores, and homes to take their posts in stealth. See you not the sentinels who scrutinize every act? Their sensors penetrate the flesh to weigh the brain and heart. They watch, they listen, they report. The eyes, the ears are everywhere. It's 1984 again. Our privacy is gone. From makers of our laws, no protection can we expect. Enlistees of the alien force, not one will dare to whisper true. Big business is now watching you. Second reading of A Silent Army. A silent army has invaded us. Its troops are widely spread. Gossamer boots tiptoe through streets, stores, and homes, to take their posts in stealth. See you not the sentinels who scrutinize every act? Their sensors penetrate the flesh to weigh the brain and heart. They watch, they listen, they report. The eyes, the ears are everywhere. It's 1984 again. Our privacy is gone. From makers of our laws, no protection can we expect. Enlistees of the alien force, not one will dare to whisper true. Big business is now watching you. In the following poem, Christmas Stew, the speaker is clearly not me, but it's a voice that is sometimes heard. Take a peek inside my soul, see if sugar still is there. In that vat, the chef of hell concocts fiery stews of pain, which I serve merrily well. With Christmas near, I make it clear I want no sweetness in this stew. A little mayhem, grief, and bane will do, perhaps a pinch of fear. And there's a treat for some rare few. They can lick the contumely coated spoon. That's a proper way to end this bash. From me, expect no better boon than bacchanalian bits of balderdash. Second reading of Christmas Stew. Take a peek inside my soul, see if sugar still is there. In that vat, the chef of hell concocts fiery stews of pain, which I serve merrily well. With Christmas near, I make it clear, I want no sweetness in this stew. A little mayhem, grief, and bane will do, perhaps a pinch of fear. Then there's a treat for some rare few. They can lick the contumely coated spoon. That's a proper way to end this bash. From me expect no better boon than bacchanalian bits of balderdash. The final poem for today, Playing Cards, was inspired to some degree by an excursion I made in 2004 to Egypt and Jordan. My febrile brain has crossed the tropism of cancer. I'm passing through the cataracts of time, shuffling cards of the diaspora. I hear the clock ticking. On magic carpet, the king of diamonds whisks me to the Mahfouz restaurant in Cairo, where I slub mermaids from the woodwork while Zahi Hawass pontificates on the treasures of Tutankhamun. He stops in mid-sentence, realizing that I lack a daisy. I hear the clock ticking. With 2 clubs, he knocks me into Jordan, where the ghost of Lawrence chases me to the Dead Sea. Using 3 spades, I dig for relics that will reveal the truth. On nearby Mount Nebo, Moses saw the promised land. Could I, on this holy elevation, find the answer to some ancient scroll? I hear the clock ticking. Behind my sweaty brow, mirages come in waves across the torrid wasteland. The sex of hearts has transported me to the Isle of Corfu, where I fell in love with Amy. I hear the clock ticking. With a swipe across my forehead, I erase my body. The clock is ticking. I have no time for folly. Suddenly, the Joker appears. He grins from ear to ear. Trying to comprehend, I read his face intently. Soon he turns slightly and points to the clock. Second reading of Playing Cards. My febrile brain has crossed the tropism of cancer. I'm passing through the cataracts of time, shuffling cards of the diaspora. I hear the clock ticking. On magic carpet, the king of diamonds whisks me to the Mahfouz restaurant in Cairo, where I slump Mermies from the woodwork while Zahi Hawass pontificates on the treasures of Tutankhamun. He stops in mid-sentence, realizing that I lack a daisy. I hear the clock ticking. With 2 clubs, he knocks me into Jordan, where the ghost of Lawrence chases me to the Dead Sea. Using 3 spades, I dig for relics that will reveal the truth. On nearby Mount Nebo, Moses saw the promised land. Could I, on this holy elevation, find the answer to some ancient scroll? I hear the clock ticking. Behind my sweaty brow, mirages come in waves across the torrid wasteland. The sex of hearts has transported me to the Isle of Corfu, where I fell in love with Amy. I hear the clock ticking. With a swipe across my forehead, I erase my body. I have no time for folly. Suddenly, the Joker appears. He grins from ear to ear. Trying to comprehend, I read his face intently. Soon he turns slightly and points to the clock. When in Cairo, I had the good fortune to encounter Zahi Hawass at the Mahfouz restaurant. At that time, he was the cultural minister in charge of all of Egypt's treasures of antiquities. Readers of history will know that Julius Caesar in 49 BC defied the interdiction of the Roman Senate and crossed the Rubicon River with his army, thus precipitating a civil war that ended with him in control of the Roman Empire. With my love of words, I decided to take the name of the river and turn it into a hot-headed woman. Here is the short story entitled Crossing Rubicon. Mick McGovern was an ordinary thief most of his life. However, the final and most successful heist of his career turned him into a pirate. The gang to which he belonged hijacked an ocean liner in the Atlantic and held its passengers for ransom. To escape justice and to enjoy the fruits of their work, the culprits fled to the 4 corners of the earth. In advance of the crime, Mick understood that he would never again see Kathleen or the 2 children, but concerns for them carried no weight in the decision to participate. All life long, his personal interest came first. Kathleen received the news of his departure without even shrugging shoulders. As independent as they come, she hadn't a care in the world about raising 2 hellions alone. Her philosophy of parenthood had always been simple: let children do what they want. For the next 2 years, Tyrone and Peggy did just that, floating on the periphery of existence. When Kathleen was sent to prison for bank robbery, brother and sister were picked up by authorities and assigned to orphanages. At age 10, Peggy ran away and joined a circus. Assigned to cleaning animal cages, she learned on the side how to pick pockets. In her adult years, Peggy dealt cards, cheating when she could, and stripped in smelly bars. Somewhere along the way, she got pregnant. She named the baby girl Ruby for her bright red hair. Unsure of the father, Peggy borrowed the surname Conn from a former lover. To this point, you've barely skimmed the genealogy of Ruby Conn. But if you traced her line all the way back to Attila the Hun, you'd find a rogues gallery that would set your head shaking in disbelief. Cattle rustlers, kidnappers, thieves, sadists, murderers, vagabonds, and Jezebels. the scum of the earth. When Ruby was born, did nurture have a chance against nature? In truth, nurture's chances were extremely slim. Toss an undersized female urchin into the toughest block of South Boston and attach her to a drunken, abusive mother named Peggy, who hasn't the slightest conception of morality, and what do you get? You get Ruby Conn. If you could see this woman now at age 25, you'd know at a glance that she has a lot of Irish blood. The freckles and bright red hair get your attention, but so does the sour puss, all twisted and mean. Ruby's face looks as if a mini tornado had just passed over it. Someone who doesn't know her would say that she has a chip on her shoulder. Those who do know her say that she has a stack of chips all the way up to the top of the spire of the Old North Church. And what a temper. Feisty is too mild. Just a second. Feisty is too mild an adjective to employ. She's an ocelot in the urban jungle. To Ruby, there are two kinds of people in the world, enemies and bitter enemies. In place of the golden rule, she follows the preemptive rule. Do it to them before they do it to you. Now here's some friendly advice if you plan to visit her neighborhood. Don't look directly at her unless you absolutely must. Don't speak to her if possible. Get out of the way if you see her coming. Above all, don't challenge her. Ruby will accept your challenge and make you pay dearly for daring to call her out. The young woman truly believes that she can beat you at anything. You know what? She can. You may be the world champion of something, but Ruby will prove to you that she's better. One final counsel before I go. I'm going to say it with a whisper because I truly fear that woman. Whatever your feelings toward her, do not, I repeat, do not cross Ruby Conn. If you betray her, jeopardize her, slander her, or deceive her, your days are numbered. I'm serious. She will find a way to make the rest of your life utter hell. Now, don't say you haven't been warned. If you want to know more, go across the street and talk to the newspaper vendor in the wheelchair. Are you staring at me? It ain't polite to stare at cripples. What? You want to know how I got this way? Okay, I'll tell you, but don't talk too loud. A certain somebody might be listening. 5 years ago, I was what you might call a street punk. Me and two buddies used to pick up change mugging people. One Saturday night, we was strolling kind of casual like up Dorchester Street in South Boston. We wasn't finding much action. Then all of a sudden, we seen this little babe in a red shirt and jeans coming our way. Freckled face and red hair. She looks like a tiny kid. On her head is some kind of stupid hat, and in her hand is this giant purse. It was like a sign on it saying, "Steal me." This is gonna be easy, I says to Phil and Spongy. Them guys is my pals. They call me Tank on account of my muscles. Well, I saunter up to the chick and I says, "Hey, little lady, looks like that purse is too heavy for you. What's in it?" She gives me a look like I just poisoned her cat. And then she says, "You dare call me little lady?" Quick as a wink, before I can even be surprised by her words, she reaches up into her hat, pulls out some needles as long as ice picks, and jabs me and my buddies in the knees. Soon we're rolling on the ground in pain. She's muttering something to herself and looking all around. Finding a bat some kid has left on his front porch, she pounds our legs like she's playing baseball. All the while she's saying things like, line drive to left field, or long fly ball. In the hospital, I learned the name of that chick. It's Ruby Conn. Me and Phil and Spongy don't serve no time for what we done. Ruby don't need no cops, and she don't press no charges. There's American law, and then there's Ruby's law. If the people of Boston was smart, they'd hire Ruby for their police force. She'd have everybody in line in no time. Look at me, I'm reformed. If you want to know more about Ruby, talk to Frankie down at the Black Elephant. It's a card parlor about 3 blocks from here. Welcome to the Black Elephant. My name's Mitch. I'm the owner of this establishment. Pretty classy place if I says so myself. Of course, it ain't no ritzy joint like the ones on Beacon Hill, but for South Boston, it's pretty cool. You can even order imported beer. As you can see, practically every table is occupied. You see the guy in the corner watching the cock game? The one with the twitch in his arm? That's Frankie. Come with me and I'll introduce you. Hey Frankie, this person wants to know about Ruby Conn. Okay, I'll whisper. Must be a stranger, you say? Of course, ain't nobody around here don't know about Ruby Conn. Hi, my name's Frankie. Sorry, can't shake your hand. Got a problem with it. It's on account of Ruby Conn. You come to the right person to ask about her. Actually, you's very lucky. If you'd met the little lady without talking to me first, you'd have an arm like mine. 7 years ago, I come to Boston from Worcester. Figured I'd make me some money here, 'cause I know how to cheat at cards. I walks into the Black Elephant. It's a Wednesday morning, and the place is practically empty. I see a man and a tiny little woman playing cards. Don't look like much money for me, but I figure I'll get me some practice with the locals. I ask them if I can play, and they says, yeah. Actually, the man says, yeah. The woman don't say nothing. She just gives me a mean look. I lets them win a couple of games to set them up for a big one. You understand? When we get to maybe $300 in the pot, I deals myself an extra king. I glance at the other two to see if they saw what I done. The man didn't see nothing, but the woman is giving me the evil eye. All of a sudden she stands up, throws the card table over, and knocks me on the floor. Then she starts jumping up and down on my arm. It's hurting something awful, but she don't quit. She breaks a leg off of the table and whacks me on the arm again and again. Before she walks out of the place, she orders me to get a tattoo on my good arm. There it is, you see? DMWRC. It stands for Don't Mess with Ruby Conn. About half the people in South Boston got a DMWRC on them. We're all like branded cattle. Are all of her victims men, you asks? Nah, not by a long shot. She's not particular. Man, woman, little baby, whoever gets in his way is in deep trouble. I remember a gal a few years back named Bonnie Mustakas, a professional wrestler. She claimed to be the toughest woman in all Boston. Mean looking and big. Weighed maybe 250 pounds. Well, she got real upset. when people started telling her that Ruby Conn was the toughest woman in Boston. So one day, she puts up a sign in the Black Elephant challenging Ruby to a fight. After what happened to me, I'm smart enough to know to stay away from Ruby. But when I heard that someone dared to call her out, I had to go see Ruby's reaction. So I practically camped out here till she came in. As Ruby read that sign, you could see that face of hers twist like a licorice stick. In a loud voice, she demanded some paper. The sign she put up said, "Saturday night at 10 in the alleyway behind this place. Bring 2 friends to carry away your body." You think that alleyway wasn't crowded? Everybody in South Boston was there, placing bets and such. Of course, no one dared bet against Ruby when she was close enough to hear. Bonnie showed up first, with 2 broads about as big and mean as herself. She's telling the crowd she's going to chew up Ruby into tiny pieces and spit them out in the gutter. When Ruby appears, the 2 broads starts laughing and saying how tiny Ruby is. The redhead waits till they finish. Then she asks one question. "Do the 3 of yous want to be buried together or separately?" While Bonnie and her friends is looking at each other, Ruby attacks. Using martial arts, she chops, kicks, strikes, and gouges till they is all in a heap on the ground, bleeding and moaning. Ruby wastes no time. From a little pouch attached to her leg, she pulls out a battery-operated tattoo kit and gives all 3 women DMWRCs. Walking away, she says to them, "Welcome to the club." The audience is awestruck. Everybody is now a believer. So impressed is everyone that for the next week, there's an argument going around town. Can Ruby do to some really big man what she did to Bonnie? Some people is convinced she can. So they propose finding a powerful opponent and arranging a match. There's big money to be made. Down in Philly is a guy named Al Witowski. Professionally, he's called the Gorilla. He holds the title of World Ultimate Fighting Champion. This is a guy who knows all the tricks of martial fighting. Ruby can't surprise him like she done with Bonnie. When the match is set up, even some of Ruby's supporters in Boston is scared after watching films of the Gorilla. In one match, Witowski broke the back of a 400-pound sumo wrestler from Japan. What can 90-pound Ruby do against him? The little lady roars when she hears that the odds is 8-1 against her. Of course, nobody in Boston is going to admit that he bet against Ruby. Still, there's a lot of Boston money on the Gorilla. The fight takes place in Beantown because nobody in Philly never heard of Ruby Conn. They rent a high school gym for a night. Tickets is $40, but sales is good. Nobody's going to miss this fight. The rules of the contest is that there is no rules. Anything goes. Most people is afraid for Ruby, but a few Bostonians is afraid for the big man. On the night of the contest, the gym is full of people. They's going crazy just waiting for the fight to start. The Gorilla shows up first. He's wearing his usual fighting outfit. People gasp when they see his muscles, which is even bigger than they look in the films. Then Ruby shows up in an orange dress and high heels. In her hand is a piece of pipe about a yard long. Seeing Ruby, the Gorilla starts to laugh, but he stops laughing when he sees the pipe. Witowski says he needs 15 minutes. During that time, one of his handlers goes out and fetches a big metal shield. Now everything is ready. They ring the bell to start the contest. The gorilla thinks Ruby is going to swing that fight. When she swings, he'll knock her over with the shield. Ruby attacks all right, but not the way he expects. Getting up close to the man, she takes from her bra a tiny bag full of dust, which she blows in his face. He is blinded temporarily. Soon he's swinging wildly in the air. Ruby smiles and whacks him in the lower legs. In no time, she has the gorilla on the ground, begging for mercy as she pounds the heck out of him with the pipe. It is no contest. People say when Witowski fights in Philly now, he uses a special cream to cover up the DMWRC. You'd think after what Ruby has done to all these people, nobody in his right mind would dare challenge that woman again. But you'd be wrong. About 2 weeks later, some wise guy in New York sends a message to the Black Elephant. It's another challenge for Ruby. This is the message. So, smart lady, you think you're so tough. Come on down to my turf and show me what you got. I'm the strongest man in Brooklyn. Until somebody proves otherwise, I'm the strongest in all New York. They tell me you have red hair. When I get through with you, I'm going to make strawberry pie with the pieces. Jake Lefkowitz. A few days later, Ruby sends a reply. Call the Guinness Book of World Records. For the first time, the world is going to see a strawberry pie eat a man. Who is this idiot who dares to talk to Ruby this way? That's what everybody in Boston is asking. The word spreads fast. He's an average-sized guy with lots of muscles who has won a few fights. But he's nothing like the gorilla. Gonna be a pushover for Ruby. All the money in Boston is bet on the little lady. Then about a week before the event, a rumor circulates that Lefkowitz has a secret weapon. Considering that in this contest, just like the other one, there is no rules, people start wondering what this Brooklyn guy has going for him. Maybe some MIT professor has made a special high-tech gadget. The odds start evening up. Finally, the day arrives. A big auditorium is filled with people. Ruby comes in first. She's carrying a large suitcase and a long electrical cord. Placing the suitcase in the middle of the floor, she plugs the cord into a wall socket. Then she goes back to the suitcase and waits. When Lefkowitz comes in, all the Brooklyn fans go crazy. He's wearing a full-body suit of armor. It is lightweight and flexible so he can move around easily. In addition, he has a portable air supply so Ruby can't blow no dust in his face. Many Bostonians worry when they see this. Seconds after the bell has rung to start the bout, Ruby has ripped open Jake's air supply line and has poured itching powder into it. Soon the man is coughing and wheezing and scratching. Then Ruby unzips the suitcase and pulls out a blowtorch. Just as she connects it to the electric cord, Lefkowitz goes running out of the auditorium. It's all over in less than a minute. By now, Ruby Conn is a legend on the whole East Coast. Nobody's going to try to challenge that little lady. Even politicians are starting to wear DMWRC buttons. I don't blame them. Why take chances? Then out of the blue, things start to change in Boston. Ruby has made some money betting on herself in these fights. She buys a car. One guy I know swears he sees Ruby smile one day. Of course, I don't believe him. But maybe things is different. I don't hear so many stories about people being mangled by the little lady. Perhaps she has mellowed a little bit. Then just when I start thinking this way, something happens. Ruby Conn gets a parking ticket. The next day, she sends a letter to the newspaper. It makes the front page. To the people of Boston, your police have given me a parking ticket which I do not deserve. I hate injustice, especially when I'm the victim. I never let abusers put anything over on me. As a lifelong Bostonian, I've always obeyed the law. But now the police force you have hired has disrespected me. So I'm given a warning. From now on, expect no more easygoing sweetness from me. I'm declaring war on Boston. During the next month, you will all learn what this means. End of story. Years after writing this story, I realized one day that it possessed the flavor and the setting of the stories of Damien Runyon. If you're unfamiliar with him but enjoyed this story, you might like to read some of his tales. The Hollywood musical Guys and Dolls was based on Runyon's work. Next time I'll have 2 more short stories. Thanks for watching Dramas, Dreams, and Drollery.